Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me on part 2 of my QHY adventure. In this particular part we're going to be looking at how I can connect this to my telescope, or more specifically my field flattener. So I'm going to get those two connected today. We're going to look at the QHY ecosystem and how all the different parts fit together, because I said in my previous video they are very different to ZWO. Again, different doesn't mean bad, it just means different and a whole lot of new stuff I've got to learn. So join me as I try and get these connected. My name's Matt and this is Everyday Astro. So before we get started, you might remember there were 5 boxes we didn't open during our unboxing video. These are all the adapters and power bits for it, so I thought it'd be worth just going through what's contained in each box. So box number 1 is the power cable, albeit not going to be much use for me here in the UK. That is definitely not a UK plug, so that's going to be well, unusable. So I don't think I'm going to worry too much about that box for now. It wasn't the way I planned to power it anyway. What else have we got in here? Okay, so we've got the USB cable and the power cable for the camera, so that's definitely going to come in useful, and I do need to keep those. The third box is, well, that's the power brick for it. So I mean, you do in fairness get absolutely everything with this camera, even if it's the wrong plug. That's not so difficult to replace, but if you did want to power it directly from the mains, then you do have the ability to do so. Again, not the way I plan on powering it, so not going to worry about that too much for now. So box 4, looks like an adapter of some sort, a desiccant tube, and some tiny little grub screws and Allen key. I'll find out what they're for a little bit later, I'm sure. And in the final packet, I'm hoping this is going to be a bunch. Yes, so this is the actual adapter kits and plates that we get with these ZWO equipment. So I don't know how well you can see those, but these are the spacer plates that we're going to be using to try and get the distance correct, the back spacing from my field flattener. So from the threads, I'll just take this off for now. So from the base of the threads here to my sensor needs to be 55mm. This then just connects to my telescope. So as long as I can get it fitted to here, I should have absolutely no problems at all. So let's find out how this all works then. First things first, I'm going to be attaching the camera to the filter wheel. I already know I have to remove this part here, and I can also tell you from where the screws are in this that it is screwed on from the inside, so I'm going to have to open the filter wheel. Annoyingly, I don't actually have my filters yet. They are still in the post, so I am going to have to just wait. But the idea of today is to get all this connected, but normally you would put the filters in at the same time here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this opened up so we can start to connect this to the camera. Okay, so the back of that came off really quite easily. All the screws are the same length. I never know whether these are, so I always just put these screws out in the order that they came out, so they go back into the same hole. You never know whether something might be a different length and could cause some damage when you put it in, so it's always just a safe way to do these things. I can also see that I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all of the screws without actually taking the filter wheel plate out, so I'm going to go ahead and try and remove this. Okay, so with that removed now, I can see that I can get to all the screws. So this should be a relatively straightforward to remove these 6, and it will release the adapter that's currently on there off of the front of the filter wheel. So if I can get the screw out, I'm going to go ahead and get all of these removed. Okay, so as I lift this up now, this adapter plate comes away, so I now have the front free from any obstruction to connect the camera to. So unlike ZWO, these things are not screwed together. Not threaded together. These are literally screwed together. It's different. Different doesn't mean bad. This is a more secure way of actually connecting your stuff. There's no way anything's going to come loose. Once you've got your camera being held to a filter wheel by 6 screws, it's definitely not going anywhere. So the next step is if I take this cap off. Be careful. So the next step is going to be to remove the ring that is already here. I really can't say I'm looking forward to this, because this is working very, very close to the sensor. I have to say, QHY, if you are watching, something that protects this sensor while we're doing this would be greatly appreciated. Actually, this is not a comfortable experience, to say the least. Actually, this is not a cheap sensor, and one slip here and my screwdriver is going to be somewhere I definitely don't want it to be. And to make that slightly worse, so because of the power ports in the bottom of the camera, it doesn't actually even sit flat. So as you're using your screwdriver, the camera is trying to move around and wobble around, making it even more likely that you're going to slip. So like that, like this for example. Yeah, definitely need some thinking about that, and I would definitely say take your time when doing this. Okay, the other thing I have noticed here, and so I am not sure which way I'm going to go, I can move that, is that these screws are longer than the screws that were holding this on. So do I use the longer screws or the shorter screws? I don't know. Okay, so now we have the camera ready, the filter wheel ready. All I need to do is connect the two. So again, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be using the short or the long screws here, and I'm going to assume that as that being the right way up just doesn't look right. So what I'm trying to do is line up the sensor, which is to be the right way up. So if you see that would allow, if you have an off-axis guider for example, it would give that the space to be in place without affecting your sensor. So I am going to go that is the right way, and I'm initially going to try it with the longer screws, and this from a sensor point of view is even worse. Now what I am going to say with these longer screws is I'm going to be screwing this in, and if I feel at any point it hits a bottom, I'm going to stop and use the shorter screws. So this is absolutely just a test, and okay, now that appears to have bitten exactly in the right place. So oh god, this is so close to a sensor. I don't like this at all, actually, especially as my left hand is having to support the filter wheel because I can't let go of this, so everything is having to be done one-handed. But I'm going to carry on with this and I'll be back to you in a second. Okay, so that's that now fitted to that. As I said, this is very, very different to how ZWO would do it, but this gives you an unbelievably secure fixing point. Everything is going to say QHY, if you are listening, something that you can put over that to protect the sensor while you're doing this. Trust me, that would be very, very much appreciated. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put back the actual filter wheel itself. Okay, so that's all that done. So all that's left to do is to put the back onto this filter wheel, which should be one of the most straightforward parts of the whole thing. Again, you are fairly close to the sensor. You certainly at this point would not be wanting to drop a screw. It is also a fairly long drop down to the sensor. It's going to do some damage. So the only thing I can say here is do take your time over this. Don't feel the need to rush it. So I will have to open this up again at some point in the near future when my filters arrive. But other than that, once this is sealed, it's sealed. So I'm going to crack on with this and see you in a second. Okay, so that's that done, and one useful thing, the cap that comes with the camera, I've just found out it also fits onto the back of the filter wheel as well. So while I'm working out the next bit, that will quite happily keep the dust off my sensor. So next up now, I've got to work out the back spacing of this so that it can hit my flattener. Now, I already know that the camera is 12.5mm, the filter wheel is 17.5mm, so I've got 30mm already. I need 55. I'm not using an off-axis guider, so it is quite simple. I need 25mm of additional back spacing. So I'm hoping that in this, well, some diagrams here. It's got an OEG or 10mm spacer. So let's just have a bit of a look here, see what we've got. So I've got some 23.5mm bolts, and then what looks to be a separate pack. So let's have a look and see what I've actually got in here. Okay, so there's 10mm. What do we have in here? I've got 5. Well, that's threaded, so that is going to go at the end towards my flattener. Okay, and I've got 6mm here, so I don't have enough. So what's that? That's 21, so I'm 4mm short, so it can't just be this packet I'm using. So what's in this one over here? So this has got some longer screws in it. So these are 27.5mm screws. Again with this, what have I got here? I've got another 4mm. So arguably that's everything I need then. So I must have to use the longer screws to connect all of this, because I've taken the extra bit, so it's giving me the longer screws. That would need to go at the front end because that's going to screw to my flattener. Okay, I think I've got this. So let's just take one of these and thread this on. So I get 5mm for the adapter, a 1mm spacer, and by the way, just I don't know if you can see this at all, but these do actually have little edges to them, little flanges, so that they actually sit inside each other. I'm assuming that will stop light leak and mean they do actually lock together. So like I said, it's not like ZWO where everything just screws together. This you kind of build up in parts like this. Ooh, just try not to make the bolt fall out. Okay, so that's 6mm, 9mm, 12mm, 15mm, 25mm. So, and that appears, if you can see that on there, to be approximately the right length to screw into that. So let's actually give this a go. This might actually be even simpler than I thought it would be. So if I pick up this group here, and we're going to do this easily so I can see, because obviously what you have to do is hold them all together. is you also try and line it up with a hole with a sensor underneath it. So there we go, that wasn't actually that difficult. Okay, I'm not going to do that first one too tight. And now I should be able to get hopefully a second one. Yeah, that's going in, so I'm nicely lined up. I'll take all of these out. Unfortunately, I am going to have to undo all of this as soon as my filters arrive, but at least now I know I've got my back spacing and I know it's correct. So that is now all the spacers there. All that's left for me to do is to connect one to the other, but as you can probably see, the thread size is different. I don't have the right thread spacing on there, and nothing comes with the camera for that, so I think I'm going from M42 to M48. However, I do just happen to have an adapter that very much might have been supplied by ZWO, actually, which I should be able to screw onto there, and then this should allow me to screw this onto the flattener, and that is now ready to fit to my telescope. The last piece of the puzzle is connecting it to the scope. This should, however, with any luck, be the most straightforward part. Having to use a box to lift it up slightly, because otherwise I don't have enough room under it for the filter wheel, so I'm also going to have to consider that as I store it. But this should now be as simple as removing, pushing that into place and doing up the thumb screws. I mean, it certainly adds some significant weight to the back here. That does have to be said, but that looks pretty well connected to me. Only other things just worth mentioning, obviously you have the USB cable that comes with the camera, so that will plug directly into the port on the back of the camera. You also have the power cable that will connect to potentially my Lynx Astro Dew controller, or if not, I am looking at the Pegasus Astro power box at the moment. That would solve that problem if the Dew controller doesn't work. And the last cable will go, and I'm not going to do it right now because it'll be underneath there, that connects from the filter wheel into the back of the camera. Now this acts as both the, as it were, a USB and power within one cable, which is fantastic if that works. And obviously I haven't connected it to Nina yet, so I don't know how that will work as an interface. Does it pick them up as two separate items? So I'm going to have to just try that one when I get there. I have heard and read that it does. It just identifies them as two different pieces of equipment, which would be fantastic if it does, because honestly my cable management is dreadful, so anything I can do to reduce that I'm generally quite pleased about. This has been quite a long video. I hope you found it helpful, especially if you are looking at getting this camera, of how these adapters work in the QHY ecosystem. It is actually a lot more simple than you would think. The only real negative I have is screws so close to sensors. So QHY, please do something about that. That is an incredibly uncomfortable thing. But I hope you found this useful. I look forward to seeing you again soon when we get first light with this camera. Until then, clear skies.